This award lets me know that good morning, bonjour, comment ça va? Et toi, ça va très bien. Ni hao, hola, bienvenue, wan ying, bienvenidos, bienvenita, namaste, and welcome. Welcome to another exciting episode of Gem Hunter Stories. My name is Barry B. Mixon, and I am a Gemmological Storyteller. And each and every week, I get the magnificent opportunity to take you on an adventure. To places you've never seen before, to hear stories you've never heard before. Each week, I get to take the art, science, history, magic, gemstones, precious metals, and fine jewelry, and put it all together into a story. What I've learned over the years and learned each and every week that the whole history of mankind revolves around gemstones and precious metals. So what I do is I take those gem stories and use them as a template, as an inception point, as a bridge to help people, to empower people, to remind people to take time to discover the value of your own story, of who you are, how you resonate with the life. And as I tell you each week, something happens to me each week when I do this show. And sometimes when you see replays, it's just because there's something going on within the story, the creation of the story. It's like it's there, but there's something missing. And that's when I usually do a replay, because I want to make sure that I get it right, because the story is so important. And last week, we were talking about the things that diamonds in relationships. We were talking about the 10 things that I learned about diamonds. And we were talking about rarity and durability. And this week, I wanted to take you on a different adventure, different place this week, because I learned something about not only just about gemstones in a different way, but just about myself. So first of all, this is what is tomorrow? Tomorrow is the 24th of April. And this is the month, my anniversary month. As I told you, this is my 20th anniversary of being in gemology. April 2nd, 2004, when I started this whole adventure to becoming a gemmological storyteller. And when you're a gemmological storyteller, people ask me all the time, how do you come up with these things? It's literally the way I imagine people who are musicians. It just comes to me. It's like music. It's like music. There's things that happen in my life, or I see something in someone else's life, commercial, music, I experience something, and it just brings me back to gemstones. Gemology is one of the greatest things I've probably ever done in my life. It's not just the bling bling for me. It's all the things. Gemology, going into the world of gemology is like being in a fantasy. It truly is. On so many different. Gemology is like when you're opening up the books of gemology, which I have God knows how many all over. Every time you open it up, you go somewhere else. A different culture, a different period of time, a different geographic location, different way that gemstone came about, or the different understanding of it. It's like magic. And this week, it really hit me personally in a very incredible way. You begin to see the world differently when you study gemology. And I said that last week, but I really want to emphasize it. There's so many things that we deal with in the human world, in the living world, that has already been solved in the gemstone world. And when I started studying gemology, there were so many aspects of my life that was confusing, or I didn't understand, or I didn't feel settled with. And this week just brought it all together. This weekend, literally, just brought it all together. I had on Friday, this weekend, last weekend rather, I had the pleasure of competing in a Toastmasters contest, Toastmasters speech contest. There's two contests this time of year. This year it was International Speech Contest. Some of you know I've won a couple of times, and which goes to the World Championships. But this year, I was doing the humorous speech contest, which was very historic for me because I've won the humorous speech contest in 2014. So, and I thought when I did that speech, that was it. It was called "It's Hard to Be a Superhero." I think it's on YouTube. But this time I did a speech called the DSM-5. The DSM-5 is the acronym for a book called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. The DSM-5. There's a DSM-6 now. And the way I got the book was a friend of mine who's a social worker was talking about it with me. And the way she was telling me about the different things in it, I was like, I'm sure I'm in that book. And she says, well, I'll give you a copy. And she gave me a copy of it. And as I started flipping through the book, I literally saw myself. I saw different things about me, different personality traits, different things that I have experienced. You guys know that my mom was a serious alcoholic. So she's definitely in the book. And because she's in the book, there's traits that I have that's in the book. And it started me thinking about just understanding who I am. You know, to see it on paper, it's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I understand. So I created a humorous speech about it, literally just telling different aspects of my life that I understood that I am special. You know, things that my mother said and did. There's things that other people have said and did to me and experienced. And, you know, Barry, you're special. And that's what the speech is basically about. And kind of understanding of where I'm at. And I did this speech. I did all the things that I've always done with speeches over the years. I practiced. I put it together at 2:00 in the morning, going to work, driving, in the shower. Okay, so needless to say, I was ready. And there was five of us, including me. And I competed. And needless to say, I didn't win. This was the night that there's the two trophies in my hand. There's 4 contests in Toastmasters. There's the club level, there's the area level, then there's the division level. And then from the division level, you go to the district level. And I was ready. Did the speech, boom. Needless to say, the next night, he said, in third place, to me. Cool. In second place, and there's always that long pause when they in second place, and it seems like an hour, especially when you've been waiting a day. Because this happened on Friday night. This picture was on Friday night. We didn't get the results until Saturday. So, but I'm used to that. We've gone through this before. So I'm sitting in second place, and then they said, Barry Mixon. My first thought was, what? Like, it was one of those Steve Harvey moments, like, no, y'all made a mistake. But I've been through this before. My first speech in 2009, I thought I was going to win. It was about Star Wars, and I just knew everybody said, oh, Barry, you're going to win. Oh, my God, you're going to win. This is so great. And they called me in second place. So I was like, oh, my God, here I am again. And of course, I was upset. I was like, what? Y'all are tripping. Really? For real? And what was different for me this time was as I went back to the table and I was looking at the trophy. Here's the trophy right here, you know, and it's beautiful. I got a bigger one here when I won last year. So, but what made it so beautiful was just understanding what it took for me to be on that stage. in front of friends and colleagues and people that have been in my life for. I've been in Toastmasters for 17 years. There's people in that audience that have known me for 17 years. And I realized that despite I did not win, I didn't win. I did not come in first place. Was not Barry Mixon. And I've heard that before, so it wasn't like I wasn't used to it. It was just I didn't win. And I realized that here's when I'm standing there. What's so funny is I'm smiling and inside I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on around here? And as I said, as the night wore on, I began to realize that it's just like gemstones. It's just like a gemstone. A gemstone, we talk about the Hope diamonds, all the Kolinar and all these magnificent gemstones, but a diamond is still a diamond. A ruby is still a ruby. Maybe it's not a ruby that you would wear. Amethyst, emeralds, all these gemstones start out from somewhere. And what made me realize was this speech, this story that I told was a part of me. It was a part of me. It wasn't just something that I said. It was something that I felt. It was something that I experienced. It was a part of my life. My kids, my niece and nephew, who I call my kid, they watched it. They watched it. They enjoyed it. I had friends watch it and enjoy it. And I just realized just how beautiful a moment that was in my life. And that's what got today's topic, which is about beauty. Here's a diamond. This is a diamond before it's cut, before it's faceted, just after it's found and cleaned up a little bit. This is what a diamond looks like. And this is what has to happen before it becomes what we establish as what we think of as a diamond. And just because, like this gemstone, many of you may never have seen this gemstone in video or pictures or in real life, but you have to remember that this used to be this once upon a time. And I thought about how much I have changed in 17 years. 17 years ago, had I lost, the world was coming to an end. I remember when I first lost in 2009, I was thinking to myself, do I know anybody that has an F-18, maybe a little bit of extra napalm on it? Just drop it. Not everywhere, just a couple places. I mean, there was so much anger inside of me. The insecurities, the low self-esteem, there was so much of it 17 years ago. And now I'm like, I just enjoyed the moment. I enjoyed just being there. I enjoyed the practice. I enjoyed the work. I enjoyed just doing that speech and being dressed in front of all these fellow Toastmasters and to create a sound that no one has ever heard. And it got me just to thinking just what this show is about, what my business is about, the Gem Hunt, the Gemmological Appraisals and Storytelling Services, art, science, history, magic. And for you to understand today's show, I have to kind of do a review on what that means. So when I say art, every gemstone, someone has to see it. Someone has to imagine it. This is a Tiffany piece. And imagine someone saw the gold and the platinum and the had to find the diamond first of all. This is a fancy yellow diamond. They had to put that all together and imagine a bird carrying this beautiful diamond seed. And that came from a thought, that came from an idea. To another Tiffany piece, to take a yellow diamond and to put it in a leaves, diamond leaves, and envision it as a brooch that someone would wear. That someone to match the gemstones all together. And the beauty of it wasn't just the fact that it is beautiful, but the beauty is the craftsmanship, the art, the science. Every time you look at a pearl, I need you to understand that a natural pearl comes from, it doesn't come from a grain of sand, it comes from a parasite, a bacterial infection in the sex organs of the oysters. Yes, it is a UTI, ladies. Men get them too, but ladies, think about the pain that you experience. Of course, I've never had it, fortunately, myself, but I've heard about them. Imagine a UTI that you have something to cover that pain, to surround that pain in something that's beautiful. And every time you see a pearl, what you're looking at is a UTI. So how an organism took something so painful and made it into something beautiful. If it's a cultured pearl, all they did was, instead of just accidentally the bacteria, waiting for the bacteria to just happen to come in, one out of every 20,000 oysters are capable of creating a pearl. And we won't even talk about the percentages of creating pearls of that quality. So instead of just waiting for nature to happen, cultured pearls, where we literally force an oyster to produce something beautiful, something extraordinary. It's still a foreign object going into the sex organs of that oyster. And here it is again. An oyster is, and I did this on the show a few months ago, an oyster is a transgendered organism, ladies and gentlemen. Transgendered. Most oysters, all oysters, start out as males, and then they turn females. And some species can go back and forth. Oysters are a keystone organism, meaning when God made organisms, oysters were first, or at least one of the first ones. And there's all types of organisms that exist because oysters exist. That's why they can make males and go to females and females back to males. And both species, both genders make pearls. That's what you're looking at. And that's science. That's the science of something so beautiful. The colors is based on the lips of the shell. That's the science of it. And you have to understand that. What makes that so unique, whether you like pearls or not, the beauty of it, not just looking at it, the beauty of it is what it is. How did it become? History. You can't even talk, as I say in my opening, the whole history of mankind revolves around gemstones and precious metals. This, every time, those of you who are getting married this month, or this is the month of, or this is the season of weddings, understand that engagement ring that your partner gave you started with this guy. Started with a man, a true knight in shining armor. Maximilian, the Holy Roman Emperor, Maximilian. This was his armor. I saw this amazingly. I saw this in the Cleveland Museum. This was his armor. Whole suit of armor. Even the horse was down. So when you get that engagement ring, and he gave it to a woman that he didn't even have to marry. They didn't even know each other. They was one arranged marriages. And he just fell, I think he met her once before he actually married her. And it was a few years before he married her. But when he met her, he loved her. And this is, back in those days, you had a whole bunch of women, especially if you were rich or noble. He loved Mary. And he bought her a diamond before diamonds were really even like the first diamonds when they were cut. So when you buy that Tiffany ring, that's where it came from. The history of it, the history of that, what that meant, what that means when you give a man or a woman an engagement ring and say, this ring means that you and I are going to be here forever, together, forever, my love for you. That's what it means. They took the hardness, the characteristics of that gemstone and imbued it into what a relationship is supposed to be. That's the history. When you talk about Napoleon, yeah, everybody talks about Napoleon. Oh, he was a dictator and everything. Yeah, he was, but he was an extreme romantic. Napoleon was so romantic. Napoleon would write love letters to Josephine during battle. Like he would be ducking cannonballs and like, dear Josephine, I love you. You know, I mean, like that's love. And even before that, he saw himself as an emperor. He saw himself as a child. He read books about Caesar and Alexander the Great and Hannibal. He read about people who conquered the world, and there was something inside of him that made him feel that he was the one. You know what I mean? Think about it. Think about it. Waking up one morning, just look around and just saying, you know what? I can run this whole place. and you know, his partner, girlfriend at the time, maybe Josephine, but it was probably Josephine. Josephine said, what? Yeah, I can run this whole thing. Like, what do you mean? The town, the city? No, the country. You know what? Let's start with the country and then move out from there. So when he coronated himself as emperor, this is his sword. I saw this sword right there in front of me. This is the sword that Napoleon Bonaparte wore during his coronation. December 2nd, I think, 1804. And that big diamond that's right here, it's called a Regent diamond. That is a perfect, one of the finest, if not the finest cut diamond ever. Colorless. A perfect diamond. It was close to perfect. And when you understand, this is before, you know, computer assisted design, CAD. This is before all the computer systems, lasers. Someone saw that. Someone experienced that. Someone took that rough diamond and saw that. And Napoleon, in fact, this diamond was found in 1698. Napoleon didn't wear it until 1804. And that same man loved Josephine so much that he crowned her empress. He took a crown and put it on her head, and then she had other crowns. This is the one. Look at what she's wearing, and here it is. This is Josephine's crown. That's history. History. That's what makes it special. The history or in appraisal, it's called provenance. And then you talk about the magic. The magic, when you talk about magic of gemstones, not just the metaphysical, but understand how the metaphysical fits together. Understand how a gemstone, that's what gets me. Of all the things that mankind has treasured over the years, the one thing that has been absolute has been gemstones. I'm talking about from caveman days. I should know I was there. No. Yeah. So when the Spanish, when Pizarro and the Spanish conquistadors came to South America and they met Atahualpa, that's the guy on the right. Atahualpa knew what they wanted. Pizarro loved gold and gemstones so much. He came there to Peru with about 200 guys. And when he looked over the encampment, he saw 80,000 Inca warriors, and they had just come out of battle because Atahualpa was fighting. There was a civil war. And he looked down and was like, his men were like, nah, sir, we're not doing this. Look how many guys there. Pizarro said, no, we staying here. And even when Atahualpa, the king, which means the Inca, gave them, he's showing them how much gold he would put in the room. And Atahualpa was kind of tall for an Inca at that time. And they figured out that it would take something like, he gave them 20 years of gold production. But what they really wanted, the Spaniards wanted gold, but the gold was cool, and the Incas was willing to give them the gold, but what they really wanted was, and they because they understood first of all, they understood that gold came from space, which is amazing in and of itself because it does. But how did they know that? They knew that gold came from space, and despite that, they knew that they gave up the gold. They gave up the gold, even when they were but when the Spaniards saw emeralds, they lost their minds. They lost their minds. They were like, "That's what we want," because the emeralds that they had from the Middle East and India, those emeralds were cool, but the emeralds that they found in that where the Incas live, like Colombia, Peru, those emeralds far better than anything. And the Incas didn't. Atahualpa wasn't giving up his emeralds. He was like, "Y'all can take the gold, but we're not giving up the emeralds." Because for the Incas, yeah, gold was everywhere. They had gold cups, they had gold platters, they had platters made out of gold, shields made cups, everything made out of gold. But what they weren't giving up was the emerald. They saw a beauty in the emeralds that was far surpassed anything because for the Incas, they knew that despite emeralds come in the forest somewhere that they have to find in mountains and everything else, they knew that for them, their gods lived in the emerald. That's what that light is for them. That light, that glow that an emerald has for them, that was their God. So they wasn't giving that up. Beauty. And you need to understand art, science, history, magic, if you to really understand what beauty is. Beauty is one of the 4 characteristics: rarity, durability. Beauty is one of the 4 characteristics in order to be qualified as a gemstone. It has to be beautiful. But what does beauty mean? There's that saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Who's that? Mary, I'm sorry. What is her name? Margaret Wolf Hungerford. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it's more than that. It's more than that. And that's how it linked to me with what I experienced this weekend. Beauty, the art of discovering who you are. Discovering who you are as a person, because as a gemstone. See, gemstones, the beautiful thing about gemstones, the thing that I love about gemology is that there are, again, about 4,000 different minerals. Maybe about 200 of them qualify as gemstones. Not just, some of them are beautiful, but they're not durable. Things like this. So maybe 200, 250 qualify as a gemstone. They have all 4 characteristics. But what beauty is it just what you look at? Beauty doesn't necessarily come in this nice, wonderful package. In order to understand what beauty is, you have to understand what it is. That's the thing that gets me about gemology. What it is. This is a ruby. This is a Burmese ruby. The color of this ruby is what they call pigeon blood red. And when you have a ruby and it has that coloring, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars, depends on the size. So when you look at that and you look at that spectacular red color, you're like, wow, that's a ruby. And it is beautiful. But this is rhodochrosite in its rough form. It's beautiful. Look at the color of it. Look at the color of it. If you had a ring with this gemstone on the right, if you had a beautiful ring with that gemstone in color, and red is your color, and if that's your shape, you would love that. You would love her. People would automatically assume that it was a ruby because it was red, but you know what it was. And because you understand what that gemstone is, it's beautiful. No, it's not a ruby. Rhodochrosite has no, the value of that stone is nowhere near what a ruby is, especially a Burmese ruby. Nowhere near. But it's beautiful to you. See the link? That's how I felt. I was holding a second place trophy, and because the world is supposed to tell me, well, you didn't win. Damn it. I'm supposed to just go home and be depressed. No, no. Beauty is understanding who you are, where you've come from. What did it take to make you? What forces that had to come together? The chemicals, the elements that had to come together to make you who you are. That's what beauty is. That's what beauty is. Beauty is understanding there is a type of red gemstone that you may not know what it is, but this is what it is. This is what it manifests. Out of all that rock, the matrix around it, somehow or the chemicals that came up that make that gemstone. And I don't want to make this a technical science show. I know I get you guys on that sometimes, but let's just look at the color and think about what did it take for those specific elements to come together to make that? Now extrapolate that out to you. What did it take to make you? Your hair, your skin, your clothes, your height, your size, your education, your job, the things that you do so effortlessly. But you know what it took to get there, to learn how to drive that bus, to learn how to stand in front of a class of kindergarten kids, and I'm speaking as a teacher, or first graders, and they all screaming and yelling, and there's something about you. They speak to you, they calm down. That's what you can do. This is aquamarine. This is aquamarine. This is a beryl. This is the gemstone that comes from the exact same chemical composition that's an emerald, and yet it's not an emerald. But look at the value. Look at the color. Look at the beauty. Look at the elegance. It's like jumping into a sea. And those of you who have been to the Caribbean or off of India, there's beautiful water that looks just like that. Beautiful. In its own way. That's what beauty is. When we come back, I'll tell you different other ways to look at beauty. Come back from the other side. Okay, we're back. Hi. I mean, this is peridot. This is peridot. I know people who didn't even know peridot existed. They didn't know what peridot was. This is one of Cleopatra's most favorite gemstones. This or emerald. They can't decide, but she owned both mines. This is the peridot. Now, peridot has a different color green than an emerald does, but what makes peridot really special is its level of transparency. It's not like an emerald that's has most emeralds has, as I told you a few shows back, has inclusions, or as gemologists call it, a jardin, which is garden, a garden of whispery waves. So it's inclusion, and you normally have to do something to peridot. I'm sorry, to an emerald to treat it to give it that color, but you don't have to do that. Peridot. Peridot is a unique gemstone because peridot is the only other gemstone that is found at the same levels in the earth that a diamond is. Peridot is, and I've said this before, a peridot is what's called an idiochromatic stone, meaning that color that you see, that you experience, the beauty, the elegance of that green comes from something not put there. It's already there. It's built into the structure, and it's iron. Maybe that's why it could survive at the same level or close to the same levels in the earth that a diamond can. It has iron in it. Those of you born in August, this is your gemstone. And it's beautiful, not just because it's green, but because of the molecular structure. That's the thing about gemology. We're talking about not just beauty on a macro level. We're talking about beauty on a nano level, on a molecular level. Now, back up and think about that for yourself. If that gemstone is made up of just a few elements to give it that kind of beauty, just imagine the beauty that you have inside of you, the things that make you special. The things that I said about my mother in my speech were the same elements that made me survive the things that I've survived in my life, whether it be homelessness or getting through school or marriages. Those are the things, those are the elements. That was the heat, that was the pressure. Yeah, I didn't like it when I was a kid, but now that because I started studying gemstones and started understanding that diamonds, rubies, peridots they don't come from trees where it's nice. No, they come from titanic forces to make that beauty. So when you see someone, what you see, maybe they are beautiful. But what are they? What's going on inside? What's going on inside? We talked about that with relationship. What's going on inside? Because there are gemstones that look beautiful inside, but they're not durable. They're not durable. You can't wear them every day. Peridot is a durable gemstone. And here it is. Voila. Look at that. Iron. Iron is what gives peridot that color. Think about iron. Think about how when you think about iron, you think about something hard, structure. We make buildings out of iron, but yet this is what iron also can do. I mean, think about how many people that you've known in your life that on the outside, they seem hard. Like you can, I have a friend of mine, a brother of mine, his name is Francois in my town in France. And Francois, when I first met him, he was the kind of guy I'm like, I am not messing with him. Not if I like my limbs. One of us, like if we got into it, one of us would have to go, period. His hands would just take my whole head and just like squeeze it. And when I got to know who he was, and a lot of the things that I experienced with my mom, he experienced with his dad. And he's such a beautiful soul to me. Once you find out who he is, that's what beauty is. And when you understand that about yourself, when you discovered who you are, the beauty is the art of discovering who you are. And a peridot would never be. If a peridot was a living organism, I can bet money that peridot would never be jealous of an emerald because it knows what it is. It knows what it is. It knows what it understands, what makes it different, what makes the green that it is different than the green of an emerald. This is peridot. Peridot would understand it. It can be in different types of settings because it's not as brittle like an emerald. You see the transparency. You don't see all the jardin, and this is not treated. It's faceted, it's polished, but it's not treated. It doesn't need to be treated like an emerald. And if you didn't like that kind of, this is jade. This is called mama jade, a different kind of jade. You can see the inclusions. But for some people, that movement, that energy, that inclusions inside makes this beautiful. Is it like a diamond? Is it like an emerald? Does it have that shine? No. But yet at the same time, if you're Asian, if you're from an Asian culture background, you understand that this is jade. And when you talk about jade as far as beauty, you're talking, I'm looking for my book, which I don't have right now. You're talking about a gemstone that is called the stone of heaven. Stone of heaven. I teach in China, and all my kids own jade. They were given to from their grandparents, from their parents. And jade doesn't have the hardness of a diamond, but jade is tough because of the molecular structure. When you hit jade, jade doesn't cleave. Jade basically just, you break it a little bit, but it doesn't break all the way through because of the molecular structure. And then there's people out there that are beautiful because when the going gets tough in your business, in your relationship, in your family, in your life, when the going gets tough, you need somebody that's jade and they're beautiful because of that toughness. That's your homeboy, your homegirl that when, like, hey, when there's 5 people coming to get me, I would love to have somebody. I'm proud to have people in my life that would argue with me. Well, why you get 3? I'm like, I get 3 because I'm bigger. That don't mean anything. And we're having an argument about the people that's coming to get me, and the people are like, can we find it? Hello? And we're like, wait a second. That's jade. That's beautiful. That person is beautiful for you because that's the person that you can count on all the time. And there's a beauty in that. This is topaz. Look at the orange, beautiful orange color. Topaz. Now, topaz if you want the qualities of a topaz, if that gemstone is beautiful to you, that's cool. But that doesn't take anything away from Madeira citrine, this is what Madeira citrine looks like. Not as orange as a topaz, but it's beautiful in its own way because it has a different structure. It has the different elements that give it that color. That's what beauty is. And every time I say a gemstone, I want you to put yourself in that. Figuring out what type of gemstone are you? What type of characteristics do you have that make you who you are? What makes you beautiful? Opal. This is an opal. This is the black opal. And when you really think about it, what an opal is, it's just silicon oxide. Silicon oxide in little microscopic beads because the water, it used to be where an ocean was, and the ocean dried up over the millions of years and just left the silicon in a very thin layer of water. And that combination of those beads lining up in a certain way, and just the way the light goes through the beads and hits that water and refracts out, creates this. Opal. Same molecular structure. made up of the exact same thing, but it just hits it in a different way. The way it transmits and interacts with the light, it's different. How is that any different than people? You may not like this type of, but it doesn't make it any less an opal. It doesn't make it any less unique. You're not going to walk outside your house and find that. Like, oh, here's an opal. Wow. I was digging in the garden and I found an opal. No. There's certain conditions, there's certain things that has to happen for an opal to become. There's things that had to happen in order for me to be able to stand on that stage in front of all those people and deliver and tell a story. I knew the work. I knew how many times I practiced the speech. I know how I wrote it down. I remember practicing. Oh, should I say this? Oh, no, that. Oh, this is the. No, wait. How was my vocal intonation? How did I, when I described my mother saying something, when I described my niece and nephew being in the park saying that I was special, all those things had to come together. And on Friday night, this is what I presented. My opal, my gemstone, my story. And I did it because I realized in my life, this is what I do. This is who I am. That's the beauty. When you figure out who you are as a person, why are you here? Oh, it's such a beautiful feeling. It's such a beautiful feeling, especially when you know the way you used to be, the way you used to react. Barry, how'd you do this weekend? Did pretty good. I came in second place. Oh my God, you came in second. You angry? No, no. Because I know that I did everything I wanted to do. Even it is so beautiful when you sit back and reflect on what you did, and you can literally say and be critical, not just like yeah, I did great. No, just really sit there and say, how could I have changed? What would I have done? And if you can honestly answer yourself, and the answer to your own question is nothing. You are exactly where you want to be. You did exactly what you wanted to do. The elements that you had at your disposal, you used, and you created something. That's beauty. That's beauty. I was in this is a store in France, right underneath the Louvre. It's a huge gemstone store, and it's beautiful. I mean, they got gemstones from everywhere. And I remember this is back in, this is 2015. This was the first time I went to France and I visited the Louvre. And what got me was just not so much how many gemstones they had, the collection that they had, but how each one was different. Even within the same species, you got the amethyst out here, but they were different. They formed in different ways. Same molecular structure. But because of the experience that each piece had, it manifests in different ways. It came about in different ways. It showed itself. It interacted with the light in a similar but different way, even though it was the same. This is a tanzanite. And for you to understand what tanzanite is, you have to understand that what makes tanzanite, which is a zosite, the group of gemstone, what makes tanzanite special is that tanzanite is pleochromatic, meaning when you look at a tanzanite, depending on the way you look at it, the angle, it changes color. And the only reason, now, this is not what tanzanite looks like naturally. Tanzanite is this little brown stone, brownish stone. You have to heat it to create that. That's how they discovered tanzanite. It was a piece of tanzanite rough sitting in the sun, and it had been in the African sun for so long that it started changing colors. And at first, people thought it was a sapphire. And especially it built up in value because it looked similar to a gemstone that used to be, well, still is highly valued. They just don't have it anymore. It's called the cashmere sapphire. You can see some of the similarities. And when Tiffany discovered tanzanite, they were like, yeah, and tanzanite, the beauty of it is not only is it a gemstone, but it's one of the few gemstones that only come from one place on earth, Tanzania. Imagine owning something that only, of all the gemstones and minerals on the planet Earth, there is one that is completely unique in every way. Only comes from one location. Think about just the beauty of that. No, it's not a sapphire. It's not a cashmere. Sapphires probably go about $70,000 an ounce, a carat. Tanzanite doesn't have that value, but it has value, and that's the beauty of it. Where does it come from? Where is it found? Is it still available? Some of you might look at the cashmere sapphire and say, I like the tanzanite, because you see the beauty in the tanzanite. And then some of you might say, I like the sapphire, especially if September is your birthstone. And if you're born in December, yeah, tanzanite is your gemstone, but this is another gemstone. This is tourmaline. This is tourmaline. Tourmaline comes in like every color of the rainbow. Every color, more colors and more hues than any other gemstone. This is tourmaline. This is what tourmaline is. In order to create tourmaline, tourmaline has to come with different environments, sometimes radioactive environments, to create these colors. Here's another red gemstone. Here's a red tourmaline. Maybe this speaks to you. Maybe you see the beauty in this because it hits you in a different way. The molecules, the way the molecules of this gemstone is put together, when it hits you, when it hits your eyes, when it hits the cones, the neurons, you relate to it in a different way. And it's beautiful to you. Just like that person in your life that you love is beautiful to you. That person may not look like nothing to anybody else, but you love that person. And when you understand that that person loves you and you love that person and you love that person for who that person is, now you understand the analogy between gemstones and people. There's some people that would never care for this stone. It's not red enough for me. It's not, but there's somebody, thousands of years, there's someone who thought tourmaline is so old, like it's the original gemstone, one of the original. Tourmaline is like 2-3 billion years old. It's as old as the planet Earth. Cavemen had tourmaline. But it's not considered a precious gemstone because there's a lot of it. It's like there's 8 billion people on the planet. You may or may not be in a relationship, or you may or may not be in a happy relationship. 8 billion people on the planet, and the person you with is not the person you want to be. Doesn't mean the possibility of finding someone who loves you and you love them is not possible. You just have to understand it's just like a gemstone. You're not going to just find it walking down the street. You may find that person in various levels of being process, being created, whether in school, whether they're getting in shape, whether they're ready to get a job, whatever. A lot of people just want beauty. If you've been with a woman at any point in your life, understand that The way a woman walks out the door, 9 times out of 10, ain't not what she wakes up in the morning looking like. Just be real. Hair, nails, makeup, whole bit. When you see a gemstone, you're not looking at the rough version of it. You're looking at the finished version of it. Tourmaline is often used as a simulant for a diamond. If you're born in December and tourmaline is not your stone, or tanzanite is your stone, here's turquoise. Turquoise doesn't shine. This is not transparent like the other gemstone. But different cultures, thousands, millions of people love turquoise because of what turquoise means, what it does. As Native American tribes, as tribes in Middle Eastern cultures, turquoise. The Egyptians love turquoise. It's beautiful. It doesn't look like everything else, but it's beautiful. It has beauty. Think about that for yourself. You may not be shiny. You may not glow. You may not be able to be faceted in all kinds. You may not interact with the light the way all the other gemstones do, but you are beautiful for who you are, for the characteristics that had to come together to make you. The tourmaline, all the different colors. This is garnet. When most people think about garnet, people born in January, oh, this is the color they think of. This is what they think of. Oh, this is garnet. Garnet comes in a variety. This is also garnet. And those of you who love rubies, those of you who love the color red, this is garnet. This is the state stone of New York State. I know because I'm from New York. This is garnet. If it's not in this version, you're in a gemstone variety. Garnet is an abrasive. Garnet is what cuts streets and sidewalks and things. It's used for sandpaper. Garnet comes in a variety of different colors. Yes, this is garnet. Make the analogy of who you are: black, white, Asian, Hispanic, gay, straight. There's something different about you that makes you beautiful for who you are. This is the Des Moines toy garnet. I love this more than emeralds to me. This is a gorgeous stone and extremely rare. Extremely rare. Yeah. This is this garnet comes from Mozambique. This is the Mozambique garnet. I didn't know Mozambique made garnets like that. Yeah. This is from Mozambique. So out of a country, and we know Mozambique has all kinds of political problems and everything else and stuff like this, but out of that comes this. Out of that experience comes that environment comes this. Garnet. Garnet. If you belong to a club or a sorority that pink is your color, might be a direction you might want to take. This might be a gemstone that you might want to use. And once you understand the characteristics of garnet, what makes garnet so beautiful, you can extrapolate that to you, your club, or your organization. So the next time someone talks about beauty, the next time someone gives you something that's beautiful, ask yourself what makes it beautiful. What characteristics that makes it beautiful? The next time you see a person, it's easy to see the person that is beautiful because society says it. But look at other people. Look at what makes them beautiful. If they was a gemstone, what qualities about them that would make them unique? And if you get good enough doing that, then look at yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, yeah, society might have said that I once came in second place, but that's not how I feel. And I'm not saying I won. I did not win. I came in second place, but the experience of standing on that stage for 7 minutes and 20 seconds, oh, it was breathtaking because I know who I am. I know how I feel. I know you can learn so much about yourself. You can learn a lot from gemstones because gemstones teaches you in a microscope, in a micro level, who you are. That we all come from those same 118 elements. Value is something that you can create. How we all started out. This is what we can become. This is what we can become for ourselves, not based on somebody else, for ourselves, who you are. We can become whatever we want to become. You just give it time. If you understand what makes you special. Your story. But every gemstone I talked about today, what I told you was about that gemstone. Once you understand that gemstone, you understand its value. Once you understand what that person did, what that person is doing, what that person has done, what you have done, what you have achieved, the practice, the time, the work, that's your story. Once you understand that story, you understand that's value. And as I say again and again and again, 1,000 times over, nothing has value. So now, so that's it for today. Thank you for, as always, being a part of my life. Thank you for subscribing and watching the show. If you have any comments or if this touched you in any kind of way, please send me an email. But until next week, my name is Barry B. Mixon. I am a gemmological storyteller. And your homework today is to take time to not to just discover the value of your story, but take time to discover what makes you beautiful. What makes you beautiful? Take away all the other noise and everything else. What makes you beautiful? When you do that, you really begin to discover the value of your own story. So until next week, au revoir, à te tella, voila.